Hello there, my name is Jonathan Balila, and I've been invited out to give this lecture on direct and indirect organizational patterns in technical writing. So without further ado, let's get into it. So what is the direct approach to technical writing? Well, it's when you begin a message with the main idea. That doesn't seem very obscure, and some of you might even say it's obvious, but it's a bit more complicated than that. So let's look at a very simple example. You have been promoted. I wish I could hear that. That would be a wonderful thing to have. But it's just as it is. You have been promoted. The idea is being conveyed, and it's that you have a promotion. Simple as that. When do you use it? When it's a positive or neutral message. For example, a lot of people would like to hear that they've been promoted. I would like to hear that, like I said earlier. So simply saying you have been promoted is a good use of direct approach. An example of neutral approach would be such as you have mail, like the infamous AOL messenger used to say. For a lot of people, mail is rather neutral. It's not positive or negative, it's simply a fact of life. So simply stating you have mail is sufficient. Next we have is the indirect approach. Now this is where things get a bit more complicated. It's when instead of simply stating the main idea, you give a preface, either explaining a reason for the main idea, trying to move past the main idea, just in essence avoiding it or providing background for it. An example is such as this one. Due to unfortunate circumstances, you have been demoted. Now, as you could see, you starting off by explaining why you have been demoted due to unfortunate circumstances. You don't just say, you have been fired, for example. That would be very mean, and a certain person, who I shall not name, is famous for saying that, and it is not a good way to explain something. Because being fired is not a good message to receive. It is a very bad message a lot of the time. So you want to preface it. You want to explain why it happened. You don't want to simply get slapped upside the face with this horrible, horrible news. You want to ease into it. But how important is it really? Like I said, that famous guy, he said you've been fired just like that. But that's not a very nice way to say it. Which would you rather hear? You were fired, or in light of the recent pandemic, we regret to inform you that your employment contract has been terminated. I know what I would like to hear. I would love to hear your thoughts. Now let's look at the opposite situation, a positive message obscured by text. Now, which is more appropriate? Saying you've won a new car, or that after participating in a lottery, we are happy to inform you that you now have a car? It's a lot of details for no specific purpose. It's simply distracting from a good message. It's bad writing practice. In conclusion, how you say something changes what you say. The way you convey a message impacts how the other person receives it. In essence, changing the contents of that message. It is because of this that you always need to remember whether to be direct or indirect in your messages when dealing with anyone really, a client, an employee, a subordinate, a peer, anyone. You should always keep this in mind, even outside of work. You should always know whether to be direct or indirect, and it will help you a lot more than you think.